down on my shoulder. You don't have to worry anymore. This old world is cold and getting colder, and I know how to lock and bolt that door. I'm strong enough to hold you through the winter, mean enough to stare your demons down. Now hard times put the shine into the diamond, and I won't let that keep us in the ground. I'm a riser, I'ma get up off the ground, don't run and hide her. When pushing comes to shove, hey, I'm a fighter. When darkness comes to town, I'm a lighter. Get out alive of the fire, survive. Got no money, I can make it. I ain't afraid of working the bone. When I don't know what I'm doing, I can fake it. I pray Jesus rolls away that stone. I'm a riser, I'ma get up off the ground, don't run and hide her. Pushing comes to shove, baby, I'm a fighter. When darkness comes to town, I'm a lighter. Get out alive of the fire, survivor. Get down low so I can lift you higher. An army couldn't keep down my desire. Yeah, I'm a riser, I'ma get up off the ground, don't run and hide her. And pushing comes to shoving, baby, I'm a fighter. Comes to town, I'm a lighter. Get out alive of the fire, survivor. I'm a riser, I'm a riser. I'm a riser.
My name is King David. Like most old men, my main hobby these days is looking back. One day my son Solomon will be ruler, and he should know that though his father accomplished much, he did so only through the grace of our Lord and with the help of his friends. I call them my friends, but they're better known as David's mighty men. As king, I've accomplished some great things, but even I marvel at the feats of these noble and humble warriors. Let's go back a few decades. We're at the height of our conflict with the Philistines. These savages have one overarching goal: to kill all of my people, the Israelites. I'm assembling an army to go toe-to-toe with them. We have a noble cause, fulfilling God's plan to bring peace to our land. And I suppose good men will sign up to fight for a noble cause, because hundreds of the nation's finest fighting men stepped forward, and none was finer than Benaiah, This man was no ordinary soldier. Sure, I had some experience taking down a giant myself, but this fellow once took down 2 monstrous opponents in Moab. It hardly surprised me because Benaiah's combat skills were truly unmatched. Another time he was attacked by an enormous Egyptian wielding a spear. Lesser men would have cowered at the sight, but not Benaiah. He calmly grabbed a stick, quickly disarmed the attacker, and stabbed him with his own weapon. Truly amazing feats. Yet there's more. For months, a lion had been plundering Benaiah's village, devouring cattle and endangering the townsfolk. Some men dug a pit and waited to trap the beast. Finally, on a snowy winter day, the animal lumbered into town and fell in. Roaring angrily, the enraged cat clawed at the dirt walls. It was progressing in his escape when Benaiah, fed up with the trespasser, jumped into the hole and slayed the lion all by himself, with just his bare hands and a blade. To say I took notice is an understatement. I'd never seen such courage, and I knew I'd found my new chief bodyguard and the leader of my security team. Regardless of the threats around me, I slept well, knowing the fearless Benaiah was by my side. It has been an honor to serve alongside this mighty man ever since.
Well, today as we continue our Lionhearted series, we're looking at courage, and a character that most have never heard before in the Bible, the character of Benaiah. How do you have courage? By living for something bigger than yourself. Now, many of us think we're living for something bigger than ourselves, but that thing, our legacy, our work, our family, is actually just another way at which we get our identity out of that thing. And so we end up kind of sabotaging the good things that we love because we so need them to be successful, they define us. And God offers this very unique solution. God says if you anchor your identity in Him, something secure, grace, not religion, everything else that you enjoy can subordinate themselves to that type of identity, and you can have courage to face challenges. In fact, have you ever heard about fear as an acronym? F-E-A-R. Fear. False expectations appearing real. This is often what happens when we face our greatest fears. And so in one sense, we fear failure, right? It's a false expectation that if I fail, I'm going to lose my reputation, and I'm defined by my reputation. If I fail, my whole identity's at stake because I'm failing because my kids aren't obedient, or my kids are disobeying, or my kids have gotten involved in things I don't want to get involved in, and I'm just overwhelmed with fear of failure because my parenting, my working, my job status defines me. Or other times we become overthinkers. We overthink everything, we overanalyze everything because, oh my goodness, one mistake here and my whole identity is at stake in how I handle this. Or maybe you've heard the politician, right? All through the years we hear the politician is focusing on his legacy. What will history say of him or her? But the problem is that legacy seems like something bigger than them, but the whole time they're focusing on not really doing the right thing as much as themselves. And the people who have a great legacy are those who didn't focus on their legacy. They just try to do the right thing to serve the people around them. It's the boss who can't give away any privilege, can't give away any credit, can't give away any power because they're so insecure that somebody's going to take their job. And that fear is just driving them. See, lion-hearted leaders are those who can win a name for themselves by not trying to win a name for themselves. The people who win a name for themselves are those who don't spend their time trying to win a name for themselves. They're just serving. They're just helping. They're just doing the right thing at the right time. Right? Haven't you met people like that? The people you look up to most, your grandmother, your coach, that first boss. Isn't the thing that struck you about him or her that they weren't about themselves and they want a name as somebody in your mind who makes a difference because they didn't make it about themselves? Do you have the courage to win a name for yourself by not trying to win a name for yourself? I mean, already you're courageous, right? Here on Super Bowl Sunday, you showed up here at church and everybody else is home making snacks. So already you're on the right track. So 3 aspects of courage we're going to look at that you can deal with those deeper fears within you. The first one is winning a name for yourself is making your life not about yourself. And that's what we see in Benaiah's life. Do you have the courage to not make it about yourself? Look what Benaiah does. We're introduced to Benaiah and his family here in the passage in 2 Samuel. And also one of David's other mighty men. David had 37 mighty men. We're going to be introduced to 2 today. Abishai, the brother of Joab, the son of Zerubbabel, was chief of another 3. Now he lifted his spear and fought 300 men. He killed them and won a name among the 3. Benaiah was the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man from Kebziel. So again, we keep track of the people. We've got different pictures to keep track of them. So in one sense, we have Abishai. He defeats 300 men. As we looked in this series, we've been talking about these Philistine terrorists of the day who would come in and pillage and kidnap and rape and steal. And these mighty men of David's would come and defend the innocent and protect them from these terrorists. And Abishai takes on 300 men at one time. You might say, well, Chad, this is why I don't take the Bible too seriously. There's no way that one guy took on 300 people. I mean, maybe in the Matrix when you're taking on 1,000 Agent Smiths and you're Neo, maybe. But no, there's no way. Well, keep in mind, all through history, strategic warriors could take on hundreds of people, but they were strategic about it. You get into a cave, they got to come at you one at a time. You get in a crevice, so 300 men got to get at you 1 or 2 at a time. You don't have to kill 300 people at once from all sides. You kill them 1 at a time, another one, another one, another one, another one. So these were very strategic warriors. But Benaiah is going to be known for something he does with a lion that just stands out. But here's my point. Both these guys were not trying to win a name for themselves. They were living a life that was not about themselves. People are in danger, let me come protect. People need served, let me help. Bad guys doing bad things, let me come help the people who are innocent. These guys want a name for themselves by not in any way making their life about themselves. And that's what made them mighty men who left an incredible legacy. I don't know if you've been watching the HBO show Chernobyl. Somebody mentioned it to us, so we started watching it, my wife and I together. As we're watching Chernobyl, it's just amazing. We're actually Googling all the facts, and I'm like, that's really what happened? That's really the details on this thing? So Chernobyl melts down, nuclear reactor. Horrible. It's like the equivalent of 200 bombs going off, the initial explosion. People dying everywhere, radiation everywhere. The plant's just devastated. But then they find out, they think they're in the clear. They find out that if they don't change something, in 48 hours, a far bigger bomb's going to go off. Reactor 4 is continuing to melt down after the initial meltdown, and it's eating its way through the concrete slab beneath it. And the water lines that are supposed to be empty are filled up with water. And if that water and that nuclear meltdown hit, it's going to be a bomb explosion so wide and so big, it's going to contaminate the water for a century and destroy the entire country of Ukraine. And the only way to stop that from happening is in the next 48 hours, somebody has to go into the radiation water, make their way through the plumbing system to find the one pipe that has to be turned down to drain that water out, or 60 million people are going to die and be contaminated. And they asked for volunteers. 3 men volunteered. An engineer, a supervisor, and an on-site, I think it was a part-time guy. And they said, they got a Geiger counter. As they're just driving toward the place, and everyone else is driving away, they get out of the car. They put on their wetsuits. They said, trying to find this one valve, weaving your way through the water, deep, deep underwater, was like finding a needle in a haystack. And the supervisor said, I got to go. I'm one of the few people who know how to find it. So they step in this water, and their Geiger counter is going from tick, 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 I mean, it is loud. It is just, it's registering at a level they've never even seen before. They go down into the water, and they make their way through this labyrinth of pipes. And they incredibly find the right valve, and they twist the valve and drain the water and save the entire country of Ukraine and beyond in Russia. They come out of the water, and you're watching the show, and I'm checking the facts and history. I'm like, that's exactly what happened. You're like, these guys aren't even going to make it through the end of the day. Now, when they went to step into the water, you think they said to themselves, what a legacy we're going to live. Think of what history is going to say about us as we step into these radioactive waters that's going to kill us. No, it wasn't about themselves. We're going to make the sacrifice to serve others. We've got to save other people. We're putting our life on line because other people need it. And amazingly, all three of them not only survived, two of them are alive today. I mean, it's shocking. The other one died in 2005 of relatively natural causes. And they have this legacy of saving millions of people simply because they didn't focus on making a name for themselves, just on serving other people. How about you? Do you have the courage to win a name for yourself by not making your life about making a name for yourself? See, the God of the Bible comes and he says, I came from heaven to earth to serve others, to promote others, to elevate others. And Jesus ends up winning a legacy that we're still talking about 2,000 years later because the person who could have made it about himself instead made it about everyone else. And by serving other people, he actually has a bigger name than the people of his day who made it about themselves, like King Herod and Caesar's. So the secret to a good marriage, it's not about yourself. Secret to good parenting, it's not about yourself. Secret to a good work culture, it's not about yourself. Second aspect. The second thing we find in Benaiah when it comes to courage is, do you have enough courage not to coast on stale stories? Don't you want fresh stories of fresh things you've done, fresh challenges you've overcome, fresh ways that God showed up, fresh ways that you took on new territory? Or are you just going to kind of coast on stale stories? Good stories, but they're stale, they're old, they're from the past. We're introduced here to Benaiah and his family. And we learn a little bit about what family legacy he has. His grandfather and father did some pretty amazing things. Benaiah was the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man from Kebziel, who had done many deeds. So grandpa had done many deeds. Wow, he's got a family legacy. He's up. And then dad came along and stepped up again. What has dad done? Dad had killed dad had done so many deeds. And then he shows up, and Benaiah kills two lion-like heroes. Two Goliaths. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So you got grandpa did amazing stuff, and dad did amazing stuff, and now I've done amazing stuff. He took on two lion-like warriors that were attacking his countrymen. And it would have been like, you know what? Look at the past tense. Had done, had done, had done. It'd be easy to say, listen, time to retire, time to coast, time to relax. I got a family name known for doing amazing things. Grandpa did amazing things. Dad did amazing things. And now I've done something that I'm known for. And now let's just coast through my 40s, coast through my 50s, coast through my 60s. But he doesn't. Instead of just being known as somebody who killed two lion-like warriors, he continues to pursue fresh stories of serving other people. At great risk to himself, at great risk to his legacy. And right, that's why sometimes we're tempted not to have fresh stories, because what if we fail? I'd rather be known for what I did right 10 years ago than what I did wrong this year. But he refuses to coast. So one day a lion gets loose. It's coming through and devouring livestock and devouring people and children. And somebody's got to do something about it. And if you're Benaiah, what do? Hey! I took care of the lion-like warrior several years ago. Somebody else's turn, right? I'll sit here on my comfort throne and you find somebody new. No, he says, fresh stories, fresh opportunity to serve. So he goes out, chases the lion out of town, saving the people. And as he's chasing it out of town, all of a sudden it falls into a pit. Boom, boom, boom. Now at that point, you might say to yourself, I chased a lion down. We'll call it a day, right? We'll call this a day. He looks that lion in the eyes. That lion looks him in the eyes. He looks around at the pit and is like, I think the lion might get out. If he gets out, those kids are still in danger. Those families are still in danger. He could have called in somebody else. And just when he's about to kind of think through the whole thing, he looks up and is like, you got to be kidding. It's snowing. It's snowing. It's a snowy day. Now, I'm no lion expert, but I got to tell you, if I'm going to go fight a lion, hand-to-hand, knife combat, I don't want it to be slippery, right? I would like it to I'd like some nice boots. I'd like there to be firm ground. It's going to be tough enough, but not this guy, not Benaiah. Benaiah's like, it's got to be done. We got to protect some people. We got to take care of some people. So he looks down at that lion. Lion looks at him. He jumps down into the pit. All right, hand-to-hand combat kills this lion because we got to make sure people are safe back in the village. He kills a lion in the midst of a pit on a snowy day. And his legacy continues. He ends up taking on a great Egyptian with a spear. He disarms him with a bow stick. He just continues to have a legacy of fresh stories. How about you? Are you at a place in your life that you're coasting, or are you courageous enough to say, even if I failed, even if I made a mistake, I want to grab life by the mane. I want to be known for what I've done recently, the courage, the challenge I've taken on recently. And of course, there's going to be potential for failure. Last couple of years, I've tried some things that didn't work. Years ago when my kids were first born, we did a couple real estate things, and it was all right, but didn't make a lot of money. And oh my goodness, I made a lot of mistakes. I look like a fool. I wrote a book 5 years ago and kind of did the whole book tour, and it was all right, but it all reached the things that I hoped it would or could have. But I want fresh stories of courageously taking on new ground like Benaiah did, don't you? To grab life by the mane. My wife and I last year, we celebrated our 25-year anniversary. And so we went to Hawaii together. And my wife had just had her second back surgery, and the last 2 years have just been very, very, very chaotic. And so right before we go, she gets an epidural in to maybe be able to go. And so in order to make it as comfortable as possible, I bought her a place up in first class with the lay-down seats. And I'm back with the riffraff back here, back here. And oh, look at that. So I went up and said, hey, honey, it's good to see you. How you feeling? How's the seat going? And one of the flight attendants came up and do you have a ticket? No, but I paid for that one. I got kicked out of first class. The seat I paid for. I got kicked out of it. So I'm back there. And this is actually on the way back as well. So on the way back, we had seen just amazing things. And we've been following this book called Maui Revealed, which gives you kind of inside scoop of things you want to check out while you're there. And hey, and it mentioned these pools. So we went to this one section, we parked the car, and we hiked way down. Way down. Very, very difficult terrain. And we're swimming in these, it's like being in a movie, just incredible pools. Then we got to hike back all the way up. We got up there, and we'd worn sandals. We had worn sandals. And it's like, oh, our feet are killing us. You know, that little string between your big toe. Like, oh, why didn't I wear tennis shoes? So we're now flying back. Beth's up in the nice lay-down seats. I'm crammed between two people or whatever it is. It wasn't that bad. And I came up, I snuck past the flight attendant, and I said, hey, how's it going? About halfway through the trip. She said, great. She was not going to believe who's next to me. I said, who? And she told me this story. She said, he asked me what I was doing in Maui, and I said, oh, we're doing our 25-year anniversary, and I mentioned the pools we saw. He said, oh, the pools were awesome. And I mentioned to him that my feet hurt because of the sandals. He said, why didn't you wear shoes? She said, well, I didn't know. He said, well, how'd you find out about the pools? She said, because of Maui Revealed. He said, well, that book, he picks up her book, to the page, it says right here, wear tennis shoes. It's very rugged terrain. Just kind of rude of him, quite frankly. And he says, you know how I know it says that in the book? She says, no. He says, I wrote the book. So we meet the guy who wrote the book that we used. And he begins to tell a story about, for the last couple of years in his career, the Maui Revealed and the Hawaii Revealed and all these books have just done gangbusters. And he goes back every couple of years and kind of tweaks, and they go to digital format. But he said, last year I tried something big for me. All these have been so successful, I wondered if I still had what it took to do it again. Could I go to a new city and a new place and write a whole nother book and launch a brand new product that would be just as successful? And I was scared. He said, I got a bunch of 20 and 30 somethings who are very, very digitally savvy, very, very experienced, and I wondered if I could still cut it. So I went to Las Vegas. He said, and I was scared, but I had the time of my life. I found little things to do in Las Vegas, even more than I found when I went to Hawaii or to Maui. He goes, you can actually drive a tank. You can actually spend the day to drive an actual tank. There's another place you can rent a machine gun and go through a helicopter, and you go through the desert and shoot targets with a machine gun. He went on and on and on. He said, I just realized this was something unique that I can do. I can find these things and experience these things, and this is going to be the next book that comes out. It was so exciting to hear somebody who could have rested on his stories, who is taking new ground professionally. One of the privileges I have is I get a chance to work with all of our speakers, those on staff here, our guest speakers, and we love the challenge of speaking to each other's lives and giving each other feedback. So every week after messages, we have 5 people that critique us with us in the room on 20 different categories of ways we could be better speakers. I've been doing that for 25 years now. And people, I sometimes do some coaching with CEOs or other speakers, and I tell them that review is an important part of the process, that are people giving you review on ways you can improve? I'm like, not that much. No, I mean, like somebody says, good job. I said, don't you want to speak and deliver your best messages, your best communication next week, next month, next year? When you just have people going, nice job, and what they really mean is you read the PowerPoint to us. That's fine. I mean, if you want to read the PowerPoint, as a teacher, as a speaker, as a CEO, that's fine, but is that great communication? Or do you have people in your life who will speak to say, I want to grab life by the mane and be the best communicator I can be, the best parent I can be, the best follower of God I can be? Don't you want that? Or is it like, nah, I'm doing good enough. I have a friend of mine who's an architect, and he's made his way up to be the partner in his architectural firm. And he's been working with this nonprofit for about 30 years that he just loves. And it's going through an incredibly difficult time. And they asked him to lead this very difficult transition time they're in. He called me up and asked for advice. I said, well, this is going to be hard. And it's going to be complicated. And it's going to be difficult. You're at an empty nest phase of your life. It's going to be a whole lot easier just to play more golf. He said, I really feel like I'm supposed to do this. And I was so proud. This is a guy I've been friends with for 30 years. I was so proud of him saying, I want to be part of taking on difficult challenges and tough roads. And I feel like God's going to use me and my gifts and my relationship skills to help during a turbulent time in this nonprofit. I'm going to grab life by the mane and not coast on stale stories. Do you have the courage to do that? If this story is compelling to you, 10 years ago I read a guy who wrote a book just about Benaiah. And the book is actually called In a Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day. It's by Mark Batterson. It just challenged me to look at my life through the lens of courage. All right, third aspect of courage. The third aspect of courage goes back to this idea of whatever it is you want, that title, that territory, being a good mom, being a good dad. Courage values being given a name by someone rather than winning a name to be someone. See, if you're winning a name to be someone, then you are your kid's obedience or disobedience. You are the size of your territory. You are how healthy or beautiful you look. You are the size of your bank account. You are the size of your paycheck. But you're so much more than that. And winning a name to be someone ties your identity to that thing. And then you're going to be filled with fear of losing the job. Who am I when I retire? Who am I if I don't have that position? And the God of the Bible says, all those things are good things. But you need to anchor your identity in having the real king give you an identity. And the God of the Bible says that as the king, he gives you an identity by grace. And it can't be taken away. That you can be a child of the king of the universe, not based on what you do, which fluctuates, but based on what he did, which doesn't. And now you are someone because your creator says you are someone, and now you can enjoy winning things or sometimes losing things, and it can be disappointing, but it's not devastating because you don't need that thing to be someone. It's an expression of who you are. And this distinction between winning a name and being given a name is seen here in Benaiah. Benaiah and the men The other men are trying to win a name. Look what happens. He had gone down, he killed a lion in the midst of a pit on a snowy day. These things Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, did, and he won a name among the 3 mighty men. So he's made his way up to the 3, but he's not the top one. That's the thing. If you need to always be the number one, there's always going to be somebody smarter than you, or somebody who's eventually going to outdo you or outrun you. Winning a name to find your identity is a recipe for disaster. And look, it says, he was more honored than the 30. There's 30, he made it more honored than them, but he didn't quite get as high as the first 2. But the king noticed, there's a guy who jumps in a pit with a lion on a snowy day. And though he didn't achieve the top rank of the top 2, the king said, I want him to be my personal bodyguard. And the identity he got from the king was so much better than what he achieved on his own. See, you need something outside of you to bless you, to affirm you, to give you your identity, so it's rooted in something secure. And when you take something, a win, a title, a territory, a goal, and you make it your identity, you can hear it. You remember Rocky? Sylvester Stallone's got this speech, and you can hear him taking something and adding his identity to it. Adrian! Why are you doing this, Rocky? Why are you doing this, Rocky? I just gotta go the distance. I just gotta go the distance. Why? Why? Because if I can go the distance, then I can prove to all these people that I'm not a bum. Hear it? If I can go the distance, my identity as being a bum will finally be changed. What if he hadn't gone the distance? What if he hadn't made it all those rounds? Because many of us set up a goal like that. Unless I do X, Y, Z, I won't be someone. And then we don't do it. Or we're just a little shy. We made it to above the 30, but not quite the top one. Who are we? See, when you tie your identity to winning a name, you think to yourself, oh, I'm only someone if I have this. Now contrast that with being given a name by the king. He picks him as personal bodyguard. And then, in the book of Kings, it's time for David to transition his kingdom to Solomon. And guess who he picks to be the Secretary of Army? And guess who he picks to be the one who protects his son? Benaiah. So in those days, when a new king came, you would bring a flask or a horn of oil. You'd pour the oil over them as a symbol of God's presence over the new king. So in the book of Kings, it says, the priest took a horn of oil and anointed Solomon. They blew the horn, and all the people said, long live King Solomon! Our Lord King David was made Solomon king. The king sent with him, who? Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada. And he made him ride on the king's mule. And the king put Benaiah in his place over the army. You see, what you can get in identity from the king is far better than what you can get on your own. And the same thing is true with God. The identity you can get from God, given to you by grace, is far more than you can achieve on your own. Because it's secure. It can't be taken away. So here's a little test that we can all put ourselves, because we all do this. We all take some good thing and turn it into our identity. If I took the most important thing away from you, your health, a career, suddenly you find out that you don't have that title anymore. If all of a sudden your kids were no longer obedient and you really prize yourself on being a good parent and all of a sudden your kids go haywire, would you be disappointed? Very disappointed, or would you be devastated? Because, of course, you'd be disappointed. Oh my goodness, I love that thing. I care about that thing. But if it's your identity, you're going to be devastated. And you're going to be filled with fear. Who am I? Can't let people find out. Secret, 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 secret. I can't find out that my kids are doing this, or I'm doing that, or this happened to us, or our reputation's on the line. Because you've tied your identity to it. And if your identity is linked to something else, you can go through the ups and downs of life and be disappointed but not devastated. In fact, I reached out to a friend of mine a few months ago actually. His name's Mark Green. Maybe you remember Mark. I interviewed him on stage here about 4 years ago. I met Mark on a book tour I was touring with my book, and he was touring with his book, and we're sitting in a green room together, and I said, hey, tell me your story. At the time, he was a congressman from Tennessee, but he was a special ops guy with medical experience as a doctor, and he had gone with the special ops team who had captured Saddam Hussein. And he got to sit in that cell with Saddam Hussein all night and ask him questions while we captured him. Fascinating story. And so Mark and I became friends, and I interviewed him here several years ago, but I've been following his story for the last year. And the last year, in the same way Benaiah got promoted to Secretary of Army, Mark Green was offered the position by Donald Trump to be Secretary of Army, his dream job. Yet I want you to hear what happened when his dream job, the thing he's longed for and hoped for, was taken away from him. How was he able to be disappointed but not devastated? Because his identity was rooted in the God of the Bible. Let's watch.
So my dream job was to be the Secretary of the Army, and the President called me up and nominated me to that position, and I was ecstatic. I think the President picked me because of my life experiences. I'd been, I was a West Point graduate, Army Ranger, served in the infantry, commanded, and then went medical corps, back in the Army as a special operations physician. And I did 2 trips to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan, so combat veteran. Got out, I started a healthcare company and grew that company up to over $200 million in annual revenue, a very successful company, so I could run big organizations. And then I was a legislator, so I basically had the skills to go and leverage legislators to get them to support the Army. It had really been building in a crescendo, the attacks on me, particularly on my faith positions. And so this sort of crescendo of noise in the media, and I'm not able to respond because I'm in a nomination process, and the Department of Defense didn't want me to say anything, the White House didn't want me to say anything, so you couldn't respond. So this crescendo of accusations were coming out of the media, and then I got the call from Secretary Mattis asking me to withdraw, and it was like a kick in the gut. Here was this job, this dream job of taking care of soldiers and their families, and it's ripped away. And I went through all of the stages of loss, denial, anger, bereavement, disbelief, all that stuff. And I guess the anger really was because of the false accusations. For example, they said I was anti-Latino when I had been named Latinos for Tennessee's Legislator of the Year. It was tough, and I only got through it because of my faith. This method that I use, you have to kind of agree at the beginning when you do something like this, that you accept the premise that God is in charge, that I have surrendered my life to Him, and that He is the Lord of my life. And so whatever He shows me, I have to do it. I have to believe it. So I basically let my Bible open up, and it just fell open to Genesis chapter 50. And Genesis chapter 50, it's the last chapter of Genesis. It's sort of the ending story of Joseph. He, of course, says some very boastful and arrogant things to his brothers, so they hate him. They actually propose killing him, taking his life, and one of the brothers convinces them not to do that. Let's fake his death. So they take his coat, put blood on it, and they sold him into slavery in Egypt. Goes to Pharaoh, winds up working for Pharaoh, this deity king of Egypt, and basically becomes the prime minister of Egypt. He's running all of Egypt. Well, a famine hits the land, and his brothers, remember these are the guys who sold him into slavery, faked his death, they come to Egypt because they need food from Egypt. Joseph's response, his understanding of the sovereignty of God, had a huge impact on me. What Joseph said was, well, God, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. So to see the hand of God in being falsely accused of rape, the hand of God in being sold by his brothers into slavery, to see the hand of God in all of that for a purpose, it was amazing. It blew me away, and the word perfect just kept coming into my head. It's going to be perfect. God's going to put us right where He wants us, and it'll be perfect. Bob Corker, our U.S. Senator, decides not to run for office, and Marsha Blackburn, my congressman, decides to run for his Senate office. And so I jumped into the congressional race. And I had no one run against me in an open seat in an R20 Republican seat. No one ran, no other Republicans ran. I ran unopposed. God puts us exactly where he wants us. It'll be perfect. And no matter what challenge or difficulty, it has a purpose.
One of the things I remember about Mark is just how humble he was, and the idea that he'd record that just for us, just to tell our story. But you see what happened? Or not, well, look at the end. Look, he got the job. No. When he was devastated, he was able to still say, there's something that defines me more than this job, and it's the God who made me, and it's the plan he has for me. That's what this identity gives you. That's where courage comes from. You and I can face the fear of the uncertainty, the face of the fear of not getting the goal that we wanted. We can face the fear because of who is with us and who we're doing it for. Remember, over and over again in this series, that's been our key takeaway. Realizing that God is the one that provides the victory. Now, look at this next slide. As we face the fear because of who is with us and who we're doing it for, look at that last line. Even these mighty warriors with all this mighty strength, it was the Lord that brought about the great victory. That's what they all knew. And who you're doing it for is your ultimate king. You're working not for your boss, but your ultimate boss. Not for your kids, but your ultimate kids. Your ultimate one who you're the child of. I mean, do you think soon when your kids are going through rebellious time, they're going to say, Mom and Dad, I know I'm 22, and I know I'm doing things you want me to do, but thank you for your patience, right? It's a long time coming for that conversation. Or you're carrying on and on and on for maybe aging parents who are going through difficult times and Alzheimer's kicking in. You're starting to see behaviors and how they're reacting to you, and you're not getting a lot of thanks back. But you can face the fear because of who you're doing it for. You're doing it for God. And he is with you to face the uncertainty and the difficulty around you. In fact, the psalmist would say it this way, God, you are the shield before me. And one of the reasons they could be courageous is because the shield protects you from the front, and it's kind of slanted, so it protects you slightly from the side. Say, God, you are my shield. And here's the thing about a shield. The shield only works when you're moving forward. God, I know as long as I step into these circumstances, as long as I keep moving into the situation I'm in, but you're with me, you're my shield, I can be courageous, I can face the fear because you are with me. You know the only time a shield doesn't protect you? When you turn around and run. You're not protected. You can know God is with you as you move forward into life with him as your shield before you. And this last 2 years, the uncertainty that's been swirling around Beth and my life between her 2 surgeries and then one not working at all and we're coming back and reherniating and on and on, has just caused chaos. And with that, it's been fear about the future, fear about her health, fear about our patterns, how do we make this work, fear of doing that while having a special needs child, all those pieces. I have been amazed at the level of fear that operated under the surface in my life that I did not know how tangible it was. But this last 2 years has been a cauldron to bring that fear up. Fears of loneliness, fears of the future, fears of, do I have what it takes? Fear, can I keep this up? Fear, 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 fear. And I'm telling you, God has worked in my life in the last 2 years with courage in a way that I never would have imagined. I'm not there yet, but boy, I'm not where I was last year or 2 years ago. And this next song we're going to listen to, the song is called Fear is a Liar, False Expectations Appearing Real. I have listened to this song probably 50 to 100 times in the last year. And it has reminded me that God is my shield, and I'm going to have the courage to anchor myself, not in the uncertainties of life, but in him and the fact that he is with me. I hope this song can speak to you as well, as you see what's lying to you about God, about yourself, about the world. And what would it be like if you knew for sure the God who made the world was with you in your current circumstances?
When he told you you're not good enough, when he told you you're not right, when he told you you're not strong enough to put up a good fight. When he told you you're not worthy, when he told you you're not loved, when he told you you're not beautiful, you'll never be enough. Fear, he is a liar. He will take your breath, stop you in your steps. Fear, he is a liar. He will rob your rest, steal your happiness, cast your fear in the fire. 'Cause fear, he is a liar. When he told you you were trouble, you'll forever be alone. When he told you you should run away, you never find a home. When he told you you were dirty and you should be ashamed. When he told you you could be the one grace could never change. Oh, fear, he is a liar. He will take your breath, stop you in your steps. Fear, he is a liar. He will rob your rest, steal your happiness, cast your fear in the fire. 'Cause fear, he is a liar. Let your fire fall, cast out all my fear. Let your fire fall, your love is all I fear. Let your fire fall, cast out all my fear. Let your fire fall, your love is all I fear. Let your fire fall, cast out all my fear. Let your fire fall, your love is all I fear. Let your fire fall, cast out all my fear. Let your fire fall, your love is all I feel. Oh, fear, he is a liar. He will take your breath, stop you in your steps. Fear, he is a liar. He will rob your rest, steal your happiness, cast your fear in the fire. 'Cause fear, he is a liar. 'Cause fear, he is a liar.
One of the greatest tools to keep us away from God is fear. And maybe you've come in today and no one would know it, but you're facing fear. Fear of failure, fear of a relationship not going the way you want, fear of people finding out about something, or just fear of the unknown. So I just want to pray for you today. And maybe I want to pray in two ways. Number one, I want to pray and give you a chance to anchor your identity in something secure called grace. And then two, I want to pray some promises over you to cast out fear. So if you want to pray along with me, I'll lead you in a prayer and then I'll pray over you. So maybe you want to start by saying, God, forgive me for anchoring my identity in something that's insecure. I'm sorry for defining myself by something that's outside my control. God, I receive the name that you give me, not based on what I've done, but based on what you've done. And Father, I invite you to live life with me so I can be courageous because you are with me. Father, I ask for each person here, God, that you would cast out fear from their heart, from their life, from their imaginations. God, anything they're imagining about the future, anything they're worrying about the future, any way in which they are just carrying a burden of fear, Father, if that burden of fear was a lion, Father, I ask that you would grab that lion and rip it off of them this morning. Defang that lion, declaw that lion, take it out of their life, cast it out of their family, cast it out of their mind, Father, that they would find freedom. For you tell us that you have not given us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of liberty. And I ask that this would be a place of freedom this morning, of liberty this morning, Father. You tell us to be strong and courageous, for you are with us. You say again, be strong and very courageous, for I will not leave you and I will not forsake you. Meditate, ruminate on my promises day and night. Do not turn to the left or to the right, but wherever you go, wherever your feet touch, I will give you, for I am with you. Father, may we leave today facing the exact same circumstances, and we pray you change them. But even if you don't, show us how to face those fears and challenges, knowing that the God of the universe is in us and with us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Well, thank you for joining us for our series for the last 6 weeks, Studying David's Mighty Men. Next week, we begin a brand new series called Cornered. It's nothing any of us can relate to. It's the idea of not having enough time or margin in our life. So you maybe invite somebody else who might relate to that, but we're going to look at why is it we don't have enough time and energy, and how do we put margin in our life when we feel cornered. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and we'll see you all next week.